Okay, in this lesson, we're going to look at simplifying rational expressions. Please take a minute and set up your notebook correctly so that you have your topic in the upper left-hand corner and you have your essential question written down. When you finish this lesson, you should know the steps to simplifying a rational expression. A rational algebraic expression is simply an expression that can be written as a ratio of two polynomials. We've talked about different types of polynomials. We have binomials, trinomials, and then monomials, and also polynomials. One thing to note is your denominator can't be 0. If your denominator is 0, then the expression would be undefined, and so it really wouldn't be an expression anymore. So let's look at example number 1. Okay, you'll notice that example 1 is already in factored form. So one key idea here is we are going to have to factor any polynomial that we have. All we have to do here is cancel out the common factors. Cancel out the common factors. But one thing I want you to know is we're not canceling out individual terms. So if something is connected, if a term is connected to another term with adding or subtracting, you can't isolate those terms. So for example, in the example number 1, we could cancel out the factors x minus 2 and x minus 2. Those divide out, and so our simplified expression would be x plus 3 and x over x plus 5. Notice we can't cancel out x and x. They're each joined to another number by adding. Okay, in example number 2, we have a trinomial over a trinomial. So the first thing we're going to have to do is factor both of our trinomials. So this is where knowing how to factor comes into play here. Starting with the trinomial in the numerator, I'm going to just set up my x. I have negative 35 and 2. So my factors would be 7 and negative 5. Because my a value is 1, I can do this the nice easy way. The factors are simply x plus 7 and x minus 5. So that wasn't too bad. For the bottom trinomial, again, I'm going to make another x. I have negative 30 and 1, and so my factors are 6 and negative 5. So again, a value is 1, so my factors of that trinomial are simply x plus 6 and x minus 5. Okay, now hopefully you see right now two factors that we can cancel out. We can cancel out x minus 5 and x minus 5. And so that leaves us with x plus 7 over x plus 6. And that's it. That's our simplified rational expression. Okay, and the next example, example 3. This time we have two binomials. So we have to think back to our rules on how to factor binomials. First thing we're going to look for, or any time, is we need to look for our GCF. In our numerator, I have a GCF of x squared. And if I divide out an x squared from each of those terms, I'm left with 3x plus 5. In the denominator, my greatest common factor is 2. And I divide that out, I'm left with 3x plus 5. So again, I can cancel out the 3x plus 5 and 3x plus 5. And so all I'm left with is x squared divided by 2. Okay, example number 4 is a little bit tougher because it's going to take a little more effort to factor this. Our a values are something other than 1, so we're going to have to use your box method or use your regrouping. For the numerator, we have negative 12 and negative 1. Those factors would be negative 4 and 3. And so I'm going to rewrite this, splitting my middle term with the factors from my x. Remember, we then need to group, pull out the GCF, which would be 4x in this case. Here my GCF would be 3. And so my factors for the numerator are 4x plus 3 and x minus 1. So that was a lot of work, and we're not even halfway done. So now we have to factor our denominator. Okay, you might want to pause the video, see if you can factor this on your own now that we reviewed an example in the numerator. Okay, if I make my x, 4 and negative 3 would go into my x. So I'm going to get a different color. I'm going to rewrite, and I'm going to go ahead and put negative 3x first, just so I have my 3's grouped together, but it doesn't matter which number you write first, which factor. Group it. My GCF is 3x. My GCF here is 4. Okay, and so my factors are 3x plus 4 and x minus 1. Okay, so hopefully you see real clearly now what we can cancel out. X minus 1, and we're left with 4x plus 3 and 3x plus 4. And that's all we can do, because each term is joined to something else by adding, or it could be subtracting.